Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today. This is episode 110 and moving strong. We have some really exciting things opening up with One Day, and I'm just really excited to share with you all. Before we introduce our guest for today, we're having an event next week, and it's going to be a little appetizer of what's to come with One Day, with this new holiday that we're creating. It's really highlighting and spotlighting just the beautiful gifts of humans from all over the world. We have a live muralist, we have music, we have just empowering conversations and exercises that is unlike any other Zoom event you've ever been on. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really inspiring and powerful. But I'm gonna be really excited to see you all there and to just share with you what we have cooking, and also to collaborate with you. And again, hold why we hold this space and this platform is I would assert no matter who you are, where you live in the world, what you believe or don't believe, you have something unique that enriches all of us. You have something unique that, is a bridge to somebody else's valley. What you've experienced in your life, all the trials and hardships and fears that you used to identify with, are actually vessels for you to grow and for others to see that they can do it and they can have the courage to overcome what they're facing and go beyond what they even imagine is possible in sharing their gift, but also receiving, the impact of their gift and the gifts of others. And it's something what we hold this space for, and it's beautiful to see what manifests since we've planted this one day seed, and it's and I always like to share what one day is. It's like a field of our dreams, and we all planted in this field with these big dreams, and as a community we water those seeds, we give it sun, and we all reap the fruits and flowers and the benefits of those fruits and flowers of one day. And together we rise, and that's what this is about. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's about something way bigger than all of us. This is all of our story, and it's something that is it's a new it's that is a new paradigm for what it means to be human. But I'm really excited. I could talk about all the exciting stuff that's to come, but first let me welcome our co-host Matthew. Mahalo.
Again with the mahalo. Hey, come on, by. You're welcome. I don't know
Like
what
to
you're
say that.
welcome for.
Well, you're welcome. Well, I'm excited. Well, I mean, you can share about what the event that's coming up means to you and what you see for it. But you know, we've been working on this a while, and this is like the first, like, since the pandemic. This is the first like real glimmer of what's to come from one day. I'd love for you to share about what you're seeing, Matthew.
Oh, two things. One, I don't know if she's actually going to be at this event. She did agree to speak at the main event. I don't know if she's going to be able to make it to the pre-launch though. But one of our first earliest guests on the show, Y Rana Cooper, um, she had this thing. You can thrive on the other side. On the other side of what? Of anything. On the other side of anything, there's still the possibility to thrive, whether that be, you know, uh, emotion abuse, physical abuse, rape, murder, whatever. Like, it is still possible to thrive on the other side of that. Period. In a sentence, you know, you're not done here until you're done here, unless you choose to be done here.
Mm.
um, and so, like, that's the first thing that is feels most present about this particular project. It's very much pointing to this distinction that you can choose how you want to look at life. And if you want to see life as everything is happening to you and you're the victim in this game,
Hmm.
you absolutely can. But you can also choose to see life as happening for you. And that choice, like actually taking that power back and choosing how you want to see life, it brings up so many opportunities. Like, for me, it has brought up the ability to turn anything into a lesson. Like, I don't have to be scared of anything anymore because everything that happens, I can find meaning out of in some way, shape, or form. And then that meaning I can then take and I can share with other people, and that can help them. It doesn't always. Not everything that I've learned resonates with everyone else,
Mm.
but a lot of times it does. And so it's this. It's almost like this domino effect of like I have been through my own trauma. I've been in the midst of the shit. I've gotten hurt. I've gotten torn down and beaten down, and I've come out on the other side of it. And now I'm learning to thrive. And in learning to thrive, I'm learning all of these lessons that I only could have learned because of what happened to me. You know, if all of that pain and suffering didn't happen, I wouldn't have the lessons that I have today. And I wouldn't be where I am today. And I wouldn't be here talking to you like I am today. But it did. And I can either choose to wallow in that and like constantly rail against that never should have happened, or I can accept the fact that it did because I'm never going to be able to change it, and I can learn from it, and I can share those gifts that I've learned with others. And that, like those two pieces, it feels like that's the biggest piece of this book right now that's most present. Like there's a whole lot more to it that I could go into. I'm not going to. But like those two feel like the most relevant at this place in time.
Yeah. Well, what you're sharing, well, reminds me of something we've talked about in the past. But I was talking to someone who was like just sharing what we're up to, and she wants to support us. She's the head of an organization I'm affiliated with, and she was talking, and she was hearing me like I'm doing all these things where like, and I'm trying to get all these things managed, and she reminded me, you know, and this is who I was being, but also what a lot of us do is we can be a human doing rather than a human being, and something that that I discovered is like you could just for example, it's like we can do all the things that we want to do, but do it in a way that we're being upset or being fearful or being angry. Like I could do the dishes and be really angry, or I could be doing the dishes and tapped into source with the infinite abundant love of the universe at my fingertips. And it's like I'm doing the same thing, but who am I being? And it's like, and it's just like that's what this is about for me. And like what you're just sharing kind of reminded me of. It's like we are inviting people to be, let their doing be guided by their being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's actually one of the distinctions. So like one of the things that we're working with for those of you out in the audience is playing with specific distinctions. And one of the distinctions is a person doing versus a human being. And I don't like that one in particular. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to play with it in the event yet. This is all kind of still being brainstormed with the authors that are going to be speaking at the event. But that one in particular, I feel like it all starts there, like recognizing that what I am has nothing to do with what I think and what I do. Like what I am is, I don't have words for it. Like love, peace, compassion, joy. These are all things that I am, and they don't even become close to describing the truth of the experience of what I experience. What I do has become a function of what I am. Um, there's a million different ways to say this, but yeah, like I one of the ways I played with it for a while was I don't actually do anything anymore. Like Matthew doesn't do anything, but things still happen. Like life still happens, and in being present and being me and being here and being real, all kinds of things get done somehow. Magically almost. It's like I don't know what's happening. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I feel that. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a good time to introduce our guest today. I'm really excited to have her. Please welcome to the stage, everybody, Viki Zarkin.
Yep. There you go.
Welcome,
Hi.
Viki. Thank you for being here with us.
Of course.
It's a real pleasure to have you. We met, I think it was a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'm just, if you're ready, Let's have at
I'm
it.
all ready.
I wanna introduce you to the world. Everybody, please welcome Viki Zarkin. The stage is now yours, Viki.
Okay, hello everybody. Again, yes, I'm Viki Zarkin. I reside in Pennsylvania, state capital, Harrisburg, and I was told I was 44 at the time, and had a regular mammogram, which I had been getting yearly. And the year before, everything was totally clean. And when I went back that year, when I was 44, they indicated that I had breast cancer. So I went to Johns Hopkins and I took a battery of tests. And when the tests were done, I was funneled to a small room and told that the oncologist is ready to speak with you. He's reviewed all your tests, and we're going to move forward with him, and he's the best of the best. So we were funneled into this small medical operatory. My mother and my husband were to my left, and the doctor was going on and on and on. And quite honestly, I did not understand a word he was saying. And he was just sort of being very robotic and not looking at me at all. And then all of a sudden, he said, I've reviewed your tests, your case with all the best colleagues here at Johns Hopkins. And we are all in agreement that I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. You need to go home and get your affairs in order. And it was one of those things where you have to repeat back in your head, like, did I just hear what he said? I mean, this is breast cancer. Isn't this supposed to be curable? And he just told me to go home and get my affairs in order. Well, I was gobsmacked. Right then and there, the Vicky that walked in the room that day died. And the Vicky that you're speaking to today appeared. And I literally lunged across the room, grabbed the doctor by his shirt collar, and pulled him in really close. And I said, you talk about how you consulted with this doctor and that doctor, but you never consulted me. You never asked me what I wanted. And I'm going to be the one. I'm going to make it. And I'm a mom, and I don't care what you stick in me. I don't care what you cut off me. I don't care what you do to me. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be that one. And then I realized, oh my gosh, my hands were around somebody's neck. And so I backed off. And instead of calling security, which is what I was expecting, the room was really quiet. Seemed like it was forever, but it was just for a short period of time. And finally, the good doctor looked up at me, and he looked at me for the first time. And he said, all right, how about we try chemotherapy treatment? I'm not promising anything, but what if we start there? What do you think? Is that okay with you? And I said, okay, okay. So I knew that I had bought myself some time. The thing is, I didn't really know a lot about cancer. I mean, I know you hear about everybody having all these stories and things like that. Cancer had not touched me. It hadn't touched my family. Nobody in my family had cancer. I knew really nothing about what I had or what was going on. And I needed to buy myself this time to hit the ground running. And I definitely did. I went into major beast mode research. And the thing is, I learned that I really had to advocate for myself because one thing was for sure, I was in a pickle and nobody was going to help me but me. Um, it turns out that my highly aggressive form of cancer track record, which is why I got the news that I got, is that there's nobody alive um, with my aggressive form of cancer. So, as I'm speaking to you today, you need to understand I'm it. I'm the one. I am the one. So, that's pretty daunting. But you don't get to be the one without a lot of struggle. I mean, if most people aren't making it, you know that this is quite a struggle. And I just put my mind over matter. And I went into fight mode and went into my head, and I was committed. I mean, I was in tunnel vision. I didn't see right, I didn't see left. I just saw my problem at hand, and I needed to fix it. And I, did a lot of crazy things in order to get to where I am today. But speaking of today, it's been 11 years. Now, granted, those whole 11 years, I'm still on chemotherapy treatment, and that does something to you. And I will say that they don't consider me in remission, they consider me living with cancer, which is why I'm getting regular chemotherapy treatment still to this day and will for life, because it's keeping my aggressive form of cancer at bay. But it's been not easy being me. Um, Things hurt all the time. I fight all the time with insurance companies. I fight all the time with doctors. I'm fighting all the time just to stay alive. And it's a struggle, but I wouldn't trade anything for anything. I I got to raise my children, and that was the greatest gift I've ever been given. And I made a promise to God that if I could raise my children, that I would help women. And so, as the pandemic begins, and my daughter, my youngest daughter, was entering her last year of school, I knew that my empty nest home was imminent. So I used that time to write a book called I Am the One, which is my story and my journey and my truth. And, I speak the book with a lot of humor. Um, it's not, um, I don't write it maudlin or sad. I never once said, oh, why is me? Why is me? I'm not saying that I didn't have the right to do that. I'm just saying I didn't have time to do that. When I say I hit the ground running, I hit it running. And so now's my time that my children are off flying and doing the things that they're going to do to change the world, as I know that they will. It was my turn to keep that promise to God. So I wrote that book, and that book can be purchased today on Amazon or on my website, iamtheone.com. And in conjunction with the book, I teach a Zoom course called, what is my Zoom course called? There's more to cancer than the diagnosis. And it's kind of my way of giving back, because all the pitfalls and all the things that I learned along the way, the fighting with the insurance companies, the arguing with the doctors, not knowing how to be my own advocate, all those things that I taught myself, I teach in this class. Because one thing I learned, one of the reasons why people are dying so much is because cancer is so terribly stressful. And a lot of people just aren't as strong as I am. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the makeup of how it is. And so if I can help people with the white noise of all the information of like all the family members and friends that are coming at you, and help you harness that, if I can teach you how to listen to your own instincts, how to help yourself find the right doctor that's the right fit for you, um, how not to go bankrupt with insurance companies. All these things are very, very important. And when you get those behind you, you can then go into treatment and concentrate 100% positivity on beating this thing. But if you have all those other things weighing on you, how can anyone possibly go into cancer treatment with a positive voice and an outcome that would be positive when you have all those stressors? I mean, you're worrying about your own family going bankrupt. I mean, major stressors. So I try to relieve all of that with my class. And lastly, um, to finish my promise to God, I've have a movement called Lunge for Healthcare. So if anything that I'm saying today resonates with you, please log on to my website to help with Lunge for Healthcare, because I do plan on taking it global. And I'm one person, so I can need all the help I can get. So that's kind of my story. I'm a believer in not sweating the small things. I like the Viki with cancer. My motto's been always from the beginning. I don't even know where I created it, but from the very beginning, I said, I'm the luckiest girl around. I just happen to have cancer. And that's it.
Wow. It's so beautiful. Well, everything that you just shared, it's amazing. And I love how first I acknowledge you for, overcoming like that. I can only imagine being face to face with the doctor, just saying, like, almost like they're signing like your death certificate for you. It's like, oh, so this is it,
Yep.
to handle your affairs. It's like, and
Yep.
you took that and you went the opposite of what I feel like most people would do. It's just, I feel like the inclination would be just like kind of resort to ego, just give up. It's like, and you just like, no, I don't accept that.
I don't know where it came from, honestly.
Well, it's
Like
like
I
that.
said,
I mean, that
the old
speaks
me
to it.
died. And so I wasn't that familiar with the me I am today. And I just leapt across the room, so she and I are still getting to know each other.
I can only imagine the impact that had on the doctor and the doctors. Just like
I know,
when
right?
they're dealing with their patients, it's like
I
they
know.
consult
I've
with
had
you.
some other bumps in the road, and he's like, "You're not going to like grab me or anything, are you?" No. What? Why did you
What would
say
make you think that?
Yeah.
excuse me? Yeah.
He's like, you're not considering not consulting me again, are you? It's like,
Yeah. Just mind, you better ask my permission or else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible that
Yes.
what you've taken like a diagnosis, like literally a diagnosis like that, and turned it on its head, and like exponentially are taking this to making others aware who are maybe dealing with the same thing, where they feel
I
their
don't want
hand in
other people
something
to
like that.
die.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to stop. And if I can survive, others can. And other women have the right to tuck their children into bed at night, as I had. And I am determined. I am so determined to keep them alive and do whatever I have to do. And so I'm going to teach my course, and I'm going to encourage people to buy my book and get my story out there. And I'm going to encourage people to help me with the movement, because ultimately we can't stop fighting until the disease is eradicated, because other people just aren't going to fight for us, and we need to understand that.
So
You're actually one of my all-time favorite types of people.
Oh, okay.
You're a disruptor.
Okay.
You are bucking the trend. You are questioning the status quo. You are not accepting what you're being told.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I coach a lot of people. It's not normal. I'm not a normal person.
Not
um,
today.
yeah,
Maybe 20 years from
not,
now.
not any day.
Mhm.
20 years from now, you might be the normal one,
I
but
hope
not
so.
yet. Yeah,
That
not
would be
today.
great. Wouldn't it be great?
Right?
Mhm.
That would be
But
pretty awesome.
yeah, I mean, women are we don't realize, women are raised so differently than men. So a man that would get that diagnosis might be more open to arguing or testing that status quo. But a woman is raised from, infant, that the white coat or the authority figure or the male or whatever in our patriarchal society today, they are the ones with the answers. And little old us, we don't know anything. We need them to make the decisions for us. And the problem with that is, so women are very afraid that if they buck, we're talking about life or death decisions here. So it's very scary to then take those notions of how we were raised, and they're deep seated in us. And now we're faced with a life and death decision. And we really just are, clinging on to the doctors at this point because we're too afraid to get a second opinion or to tell them no or to question their treatment plan. So women are dying, literally dying, because they're afraid to ask a question. And I've coached women where I've given them suggestions for alternate treatment that they were doing, and they chose not to do that, which, of course, is their right, but they all died. And that is not easy to witness.
Yeah. And so this actually goes back to what we were kind of talking about backstage, about standing up for yourself first and actually finding your own voice. And
Mhm.
that nothing is going to change until that happens. And,
Right.
I get it. Like there has been, I don't know how far back it goes. Like my gut feeling is somewhere between 10 to 15,000 years.
Mhm.
When this actually kind of started, this shift from the matriarchal societies into the patriarchal societies where men actually started taking power. But there has been a very pervasive narrative in our culture for thousands of years, that women are subservient.
Mhm.
And that's just like, no, absolutely not. Like, I can say this as a man, like I do not want a woman as a partner who looks to me for leadership. I do not want a woman as a partner who looks to me as a security blanket. I do not want a woman as a partner who isn't going to speak her own truth.
Mhm.
I want someone who's going to challenge me, who's going to call me out, who's going to I know
Life
I'm
would
wrong
be
half the
so
time.
boring otherwise, right?
Right? Yeah. Like if like they're
I mean,
always telling me yes.
I mean, it sounds like it would be a really good idea, but
No,
in theory,
no,
it's
it's
really
not.
not. I mean, I would be bored stiff.
Yeah, exactly.
Bored stiff.
And,
Yeah.
and it breaks my heart that it's gotten this bad, that like it's
Mhm.
taking someone like
Yeah.
you who was literally told there's nothing we can do for you, you're going to die, and if you hadn't have stood up and lunged across the room and said something,
Yeah.
you
Wow.
probably would have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because it was everywhere,
Yeah.
and I had to save myself. I had to find a doctor. I had to do alternate treatment that was being recommended to me, because the treatment that was recommended to me, I would have died of congestive heart failure long before I probably would have died of the cancer, no matter how tough I was. Um, I needed to save my my heart and my lung, which were riddled in cancer. The left ventricle of my heart and the left lung were part of what was riddled in cancer, and I needed to find an alternate treatment in order to save those organs.
So, just out of curiosity, what did you find? Like, how can
Mm,
you like take us through the
yeah.
journey a little bit?
Oh, well, it's kind of interesting because there's two types of radiation out there, and a lot of people don't always know or can differentiate between the two. The radiation treatment that most everybody is familiar with, that 90% of the hospitals have, is called photon radiation. Okay. Photon radiation is a big, huge blast. It scatters, it doesn't know um, right from left. It damages anything in its wake. So it goes in from the inside and it comes out the back, right through your back. Okay. Whereas there's another type of radiation called proton radiation. Proton radiation typically is used for brain cancer, for prostate cancer, because it's a pinpoint radiation. It can stop on a dime, it can go around something. It does not have the scatter and it does not go in from the front and the back. It can just stop right where it needs to. The problem with the proton radiation is, as I said, it's a pinpoint radiation. So, to be cost effective, it works for small areas. I was riddled in cancer. I had it everywhere across my chest. I mean, I've got 30 lymph nodes involved. I've got my esophagus, my neck, my mammary gland. I mean, my heart, my lung. It was all over my mediastinum. So proton radiation had never been used before under these circumstances because it takes so long to map the area prior to even beginning treatment. So the doctor that I talked into doing my proton radiation, he spent 200 hours of mapping time before I even got to his clinic. 200 hours. And my radiation was so incredible. I mean, it was like you're in like this football field of or like a planetarium or something like that, and you're put on this very, very narrow like an operating table, and there's barely any room to really strap you in or anything, and it takes you all the way up like football fields up high, and and then a beam comes down and you do one area. I did one area one day, one area another. And so I couldn't miss a day of radiation. Whereas most people that get the proton radiation treatment do it once a week. Now, the equipment also takes up city blocks. And when I got it done in the summer, the equipment was always breaking down. So I was very versatile, of course, very grateful for any treatment that I was getting. And I was willing to be called, whatever time of day, because the doctor that treated me mostly was treating children with brain cancer. And all the people in the waiting room were children with brain cancer. And there is no way a child can go up high like that, strapped to a little table, without being put to sleep. It's far too dangerous because you cannot move, not a millisecond. You fall to your death. So, not to mention that it'll alter the treatment. So I would go in at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 8 in the morning. I mean, I would never know when I was supposed to have treatment that day because the equipment was always breaking down and we wanted to make sure we got the kids in first. So it was a good 4 months of treatment. And of course, I was out of state and we had to rent an apartment and everything. But, because it was summer when I had the bulk of that treatment done, my kids were out of school. So I brought them with me. And my mom was there. And my husband took off like 3 weeks of work and so forth. So it was, I know it sounds crazy, but it was the best family summer we have had. And I know I was sick and I was getting treatment every day, but we put the kids in this cute little YMCA camp and they were kayaking and doing gymnastics and we were singing, YMCA, and they were so happy and we went for walks in the morning and just enjoyed the town and the new environment and so forth. Now I had pretty bad burns. And they were scary, but it's just a means to an end.
I'd never even heard of that process before.
Yeah, it's not something that a lot of people know. And quite honestly, insurance companies and insurance dollars, think about it. They don't they don't make money off a case like mine. It's just too far complicated and too large. So what they really want to use it for is they do a ton of prostate. And, I can make a joke that, they found the man parts more important than the woman parts. And, that did occur to me. And thinking about it, today, I'm still the only one alive. So what's that tell you about their emphasis for women's parts? Not so much.
Yes, and this also points to like how much inertia is in the system and continues to get put into the system simply out of convenience.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
like it's not
it's
convenient
not
to
considered
treat.
experimental. I mean, let's face it, proton radiation has been around for 100 years. Now, and not like when I did it, there was only 7 hospitals in the world that had it. So it's not like it was prevalent. It's much more prevalent today. But it was still not experimental. I mean, how long have we been taking care of brain surgery and prostate cancer? I mean, it's not experimental. And the insurance companies tried to say to me what I was doing was experimental. So, I wasn't having that. But that's where it really could have bankrupted my family because, that was easily $500,000. That treatment and I went to a university and it was $500,000. So my parents, who hadn't spoken to each other in 20 years, both put their houses up for a second mortgage for me. I mean, I was like days away from going out of state for treatment, and I've been through my 6th denial from the insurance company, and so I needed to get creative. And I hate to give away everything in my book, but I talk about all this, and they say behind every man is an even better woman, and that's what I figured out. And so I found the name of the secretary of the medical director of the insurance company that was denying me, and I sent her flowers with a note, if she had a moment to please call me. And she did. And I got to tell her my story and why I thought it wasn't experimental. And it was a day before I had to leave. My conversation with her was 2 days before I had to leave. The next day, I got a letter from the insurance company that they were covering it.
Okay, two things really quick,
Wow.
and this is,
Yeah.
I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form, but Jesus was a very wise man, very, very wise man. And there's two things that he said that like they tend to get glossed over most of the time when I hear people talk about it.
Mm.
The first is I'm gonna butcher the exact quote, but it's with the faith of a mustard seed you can move mountains.
Hmm.
And the second is greater things than this will you also do.
Okay.
And you
That's
have moved
the plan.
mountains.
Hmm.
Like you have literally moved mountains.
I don't, I don't know about that, but I've moved it for myself,
Well,
and the
that's the thing.
plan
Like
is to help
it
others.
shows, it goes to show the power of imagination and determination together.
Yeah. I just wasn't letting anybody else raise my kids. I mean, that's what it came down to. I mean, there was no way somebody else was going to go in there and raise my babies because nobody could do a better job than me. And I knew these kids had the potential of changing the world, and they needed me. And I wasn't leaving them, and nobody else was going to raise them. That's for sure. No.
Ooh.
Yeah, no. That's what hit me from the very beginning. Those kids.
Hmm.
And I was a mom. And that was, it was fierce. And I made a deal with the kids. I promised to do what I needed to do to get well, as long as they promised to do their job. And that was to go to school, do their homework, and have fun. Have all the fun that they could have and not worry about me because that was my job. We each had jobs. In our household, we all have jobs, and this was mine. And they needed to um, count on me to do my job so that I could count on them to do theirs. And we made a deal, me and the kids,
Hmm.
sitting on the floor, Indian style, with the kids, crisscross applesauce, and yeah, and I told them that a lot, I was probably going to look funny for a while, like somebody from one of their crazy video games that they played all the time, because I was going to be bald and stuff. Um, so I tried to, lessen their fear by making it relatable to them.
Because you're mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I got to raise those kids, and they're doing great things today. And it's just been my greatest gift. Nothing I've done, nothing I've done has uh, compared to being a mother.
It's so there's so many levels to how powerful it is. And one question that keeps popping up for me is, through this experience, for your family and for your kids, like what do you think this has instilled in your kids and in your family? Like that, in 20, 40, 50, 60 years,
Yeah,
like what do you think
it's
this
rough, I
experience
think.
because this is a gift you've given them a
Mhm.
gift.
Well, I have and I haven't. It's also been, you know, I mean, my kids are really well adjusted. They're doing really well. They're not depressed kids. They're kind. They're kind to their fellow, um, students and friends and people in their environment. So, I'm really proud of that fact. But you have to understand, these kids were young when I got sick, and I've been sick all their growing up life. And that, like the book, The Road Less Traveled, I always worried that the day I got sick changed the course of those two little people's lives forever. And their trajectory was in one way. And the day I got sick, of no fault of mine, but it changed their trajectory. And it could, you know, make them bitter. It could make them non-productive. I mean, there's so many things that could have happened to these kids watching their mom be sick so many years. But I vowed that I would make their life as normal as possible. And I would yell at them when they needed to be yelled at, and they would get discipline, and they would have structure. And I didn't care how I felt that day, they would always have that. And that, I think that was when I said that I was going to do that. And, in my head, I think that that was my best gift for those kids. Because if I mean, granted, I felt guilty a lot of their lives being sick all the time. I'm not going to deny that I did a lot of things out of guilt too. But, but their core discipline, their core treatment that they received at home was always steady. That was steady. They could count on me for an answer, for discipline, for structure, the things that they look for in a parent. Yeah. And I wasn't going to let my guilt eat away at the fact that I needed to raise these kids the way they needed to be raised, not the way I felt, or I was like, when you're sick a lot, it's like, okay, let's play hooky, or let's do this. You have to rein a lot of that in, because you're kind of doing that for you. You're not doing it for them. So there's a gray area there. It's a fine line, and parenting's tough. And you want to put your children first, not you. And I don't care, what was going on in my life. That was no fault of theirs. So it was really important to me to raise them with a strong sense of self.
Yeah. Well, I really hear is like you gave them a gift of perseverance. Like, as life is not linear. It's a roller coaster, there's mountains and valleys. And I just see like who you were being, during your sickness, and in being, able to face the like an almost seemingly impossible situation and not knowing what the future will look like. And you still held that, like, in the face of all that adversity, you were persevering. You were strong. And I mean, obviously I imagine there's guilt with that. It comes with that.
Yes.
But I just see but that is like, I just imagine, like what you're uniquely offering them through this experience is, who knows what other struggles and valleys they'll experience in their lives. Like, they are not only more able to deal with those situations, but they can be that for others. It's like it's like a real, it's a gift of perseverance. It's like they can overcome anything.
I mean, they're young yet. And, they're still self-absorbed, like all the other kids. I mean, my daughter's just 19, my son's 22. So, they're still very young. She's just a freshman in college. He's in his last year of school. So, they're still self-absorbed kids, just like any other. And that's okay too. But they do have a foundation. And they're good people. And, they will change the world in their own way. Both of them in totally different ways, but they will. They have the potential. And you know what I also did? Well, my husband and I did this together. We worked really hard to maintain the children's friendship with each other. and the trust that they have within each other, to the point where we would say to them when they were younger on up, it's okay to have secrets. We don't have to know everything. As long as it's not dangerous, I'm not going to pry. The two of you can have your own secrets. Mommy and daddy don't have to know everything all the time. And by giving them the freedom to be able to protect each other's secrets or count on each other for, and not tell us or something like that, like them against us type of a thing. It gave them a really good bond with each other. I never knew where I'm going to be or how long or I'm going to be on this earth, but they're going to have each other. And you see too many siblings fighting and everything these days, and that was one thing I would not put up with.
Yeah.
They are siblings. They have each other's back, and they're going to be able to count on each other forever. And now, as young adults, she's in college in one state, he's in college in another state, but they call each other, they talk. They want him to visit, with each other at school, introduce their friends to each other. So it's nice.
And none of this would have been possible if you hadn't stood up for yourself, if you hadn't advocated.
Matthew, that's nice. Yeah.
I'd like to go back to that for a minute, because
Sure.
that really ties into a lot of what we are putting out into the world, which is, being authentic, like being true, not being afraid to speak out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like the amount of suffering that happens right now simply because of all the inertia that's built up into the system, and
Right.
it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much potential for change because of how broken it seems to be.
Mhm.
And in that potential for change, I feel like the most powerful agent of change are advocates, people like yourself, advocates, disruptors, the ones who won't take the written answers, who won't take the status quo.
I never looked at it that way.
I'm sorry?
I never looked at it that way. I love your point of view.
Yeah, it's like I love you being you so much. And even though like you may be the outlier right now, you may be the one in 100 million that have access to get this, right? There's who knows how many other women are in your position right now who don't have the access that you do. But because you are actually standing up and speaking, the ball, like you've started the ball rolling. The change is already starting. It's happening now.
I hope
Yeah.
so. I
Well,
really hope so. I've tried so
what I see.
hard. I'm just a 5-foot tiny little person, but I try to step on the highest platform that I can and shout as loud as I can.
You may be 5 foot, but you're larger than life, Viki. It's you really are. And
you got a fierceness that is not to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and I think we need.
Don't piss me off.
We need you are the one. We need your voice. I guess that's kind of my last question for you is, what do you say to people who are in the same situation, or, women or men or people who are at the end of their rope and get this diagnosis or get this, whether it's a literal diagnosis, a physical, mental, emotional experience, that they're at the edge of this cliff.
To accept. That's what I would say. You do not have to accept it. I don't know what everybody else's outcome will be, but you don't have to accept what somebody else deems as your fate. Make your own fate. Whether it be that you die the way that you want to die or that you live the way you want to live. Make your own fate. Handle your own affairs. Don't let somebody else do that for you. That is what I just the number one thing that I would say. And then, don't sweat the small stuff, everybody. Now that we know that life is so precious and so short, let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
There's this old Sufi story that I absolutely love. This man dies and goes to heaven, and St. Peter is at the gates. And St. Peter's job at the gates is to determine what level of heaven they go to. And the man's watching everyone in front of him. There's a priest in front of him that, he gets there, and St. Peter actually assigns him to one of the lowest levels of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a used car salesman that comes up next, and St. Peter, assigns him to one of the higher levels of heaven. And the guy finally gets up there, and he's been watching all these people, and no rhyme or reason. Can't figure it out. And St. Peter goes through his life, and it actually assigns him to one of the lower levels of heaven. And the guy's like, but why? I tried so hard. I tried to be like you. I tried to be like Jesus. I tried to be like Muhammad. Why are you sending me one of the lower levels of heaven? And
Mm-hmm.
St. Peter just goes, yeah, but we wanted you to be like you.
Right. I knew that was coming. Yep. Exactly. Because we're all unique. And if we all, embrace our uniqueness together, we've got something,
Yes.
as a group,
Yes.
because we all will offer a different type of point of view. And when was it that we didn't like points of views? What happened that we don't want other points of views?
Yeah.
I mean, what a barren place.
Right. It's like an echo chamber, and it's something that I've discovered is some of the biggest lessons in my life and biggest breakthroughs have been, listening to people that I disagree with and people that I don't even understand, and perspectives that are way different than anything I was born in. Mm-hmm.
In the quiet, what it is that you can learn versus the noise. Yes.
Yep.
And that is so great what you just said about listening to those that disagree with you, because that's the first step.
We're all just ants on a rock. We're just ants spit on this rock. And if we have if we for any reason think that we know everything, that in this infinitely expanding universe,
then it's crazy.
I have all the answers.
You're crazier than me.
Yeah. For me, that's the dark ages. If we think we know all the answers, it's like we're
And then where's the fun?
Lost. Yeah,
where's the fun if you know all your outcomes already? Dive in. Dive in.
And this is my favorite thing about this particular platform is I've said it over and over and over again. I don't have the answers. I mean, I might have one or two here or there, but it's these conversations that generate the answers.
Yeah.
And having them publicly.
And generate the potential of differences.
Yeah.
Than just an answer. An answer can be that there is no answer.
Exactly.
But respecting the process and the voices.
And trusting the process.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
There's a quote I've been referring to a lot. There's a Helen Keller quote that says, "Alone we can do so little, and together we can do so much." And it's you might be able to get by and survive in life on your own and just do the things your way and in your own little echo chamber. And it's this is kind of a micro for humanity as a whole. It's we sure, maybe we can survive by just the status quo and thinking we have the answers, but why not challenge that and actually what if it is our collective conversation in the space that we hold with each other, even when we don't agree.
Especially when we don't agree, right?
Yeah, what
Make
new
things
solutions?
More interesting. Just like Matthew was saying, he doesn't want a maid or a spouse or a significant other in his life to just be a yes person. He wants to be challenged. Why don't we as a whole want that for ourselves too? Right?
Amen. Yeah, there's the question. There is the question. And
Yeah.
I don't know, but I suspect it starts with fear. Like
Yeah.
we are
So
so
easy.
scared
Yeah.
of like
It's an easy fallback. And there's so
Yeah.
much fear in the world today. You know, you're 100% right, Matthew. That's exactly what it is. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
I think it's being open to the inquiry. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's
Because
happening.
that's
It's
not
a
easy, I
conversation.
guess, right?
Well, it's a choice. Like,
So you're right, Matthew. It's the
well,
fear that holds us all back.
it is, and it's the
And
opportunity, and the
that's a
fear is a
normal
compass.
thing, the fear.
It is normal. It's
So
human to have
having
fear.
to like not listen to it is not, you know, like I make it sound so easy. You know, anybody that's listening to me today, I want you to understand it is not easy. And I would never um suggest otherwise. That would just be irresponsible.
Right. And well, I think fear. You know, there always will be fear. Fear is always will, but it's when we have fear, it's recognizing that we have it, but we are not our fear. Like we have fear, but we aren't our fears. And it's
Yeah.
like we
Well,
possess fears. We
it's
possess.
hard.
There's fears based on, you know, as Matthew says a lot here, is like it's always based on a lie, and it's like
Mhm.
fear is our compass. You know, when I have a fear, you know, my practice is to see it. You know, I mean, even when I'm in the midst of it, it's like, okay, where's the lie? But also, this disruption of my energy is pointing me to something to look at. And when I actually use fear as a compass, that's where my biggest opportunities for growth and to actually make a difference and actually go beyond the limitations of my fears. And fear,
And
so
you are.
fear has a very profound, powerful purpose when we allow it to be, or it can be the biggest
Yes.
debilitator of action.
It's the most powerful. I mean, fear is where all your negativity comes from.
hmm What's that? Well, Matthew, what is the Yoda quote?
Yeah, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side.
Yeah.
The dark side.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
wouldn't want that.
I mean, that would like George Lucas literally summed up like 5,000 years of
I know,
Eastern
he's
philosophy
amazing.
in one quote.
What a
Yeah,
writer.
it's like absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but like what Abram was pointing to, like I absolutely get, because it's not like fear is a good or a bad thing. It's
Mhm.
just a thing.
Right.
It's how
But easier said
we
than done. I mean, I understand.
yes.
You know, people will hear
Yes.
me and they're just like, oh, that is so amazing, but I don't think I could have ever done that. You just don't know. I thought I would never do anything like that. In a million years, who's going to think? I mean, me, I was like the most proper, you know,
Little
I
tiny
like
little
leapt across the room, grabbed him literally by the neck. I mean, who does that?
you
Nobody.
do apparently.
You are the one.
Yeah. But I needed to shake things up that day.
Literally.
Because
You literally
things were,
did.
yeah, they were just not going the way I wanted them.
Well, and again, I acknowledge you for the courage to stand with that intuition, you know, because it's very easy. I mean, understandably, to just follow authority
Well,
because
it's a lot of
they're the one with the white
metaphysical
coat.
stuff too, because
Right.
remember, I died.
hmm
And why did I die? Because the old me wasn't strong enough to handle these things. And I instinctively knew that. And I knew I needed help subconsciously.
hmm
You know, this is all like, you know, all metaphysical. I mean, like all crazy stuff. But literally, I died that day, and the person that I am appeared. And I was strong enough to get the business done. And that was like, you know, it just came down to that.
Thank you for bringing that around. I like that was I felt like there was something that was missing, and it's that. Like,
It's crazy, I know.
well, it's the literal, like it's the literal experience of being born again.
Yes. I mean, I truly, I mean, my personalities, of course, are very similar to the me that died, but the me that died wasn't nowhere near as strong enough. I would not be here today. And I cared always about what people thought of me. I was, a worrier like that. And you
Well,
cannot care about those things if you're trying to save your life. You just can't. You can't care
yeah,
about what people think about you.
yeah. Well, it's beautiful, and I think this is a good thing just to close on. But what you're pointing to is, I feel, what every spiritual and religious practice points to, and it's like whether it's Christianity to Islam to Sikhism to Judaism, it's like death, birth, and resurrection, and it's like it's dying to our false self and being reborn to our true self, and it's like there's a million words you could use to describe that, but that's what they all point to. Is that what you just described? Is who died, Vicky, was not you. And when you
Mhm.
discover that that wasn't you, that's when you, like, uppercase S self, your uppercase capital S itself
Your whole
came in.
self.
Yeah, your whole self came
Yeah.
came to experience itself,
That's cool.
and it's beautiful, and it's
That's a
something
cool
that
point of view.
it's profound, and I think it's
Mm.
you've done that, and not only did you overcome that experience, but now you're here with us sharing about it. You have this book, you have this just amazing, this you are the one. You're sharing your triumph, and you're bringing this to others, that someone who might feel hopeless, who might get something, a diagnosis or some kind of fear that slips in of what that somebody else decides for them. And it's like a lot of people we deal on the stage, or just speaking for myself, my experience is like I was waiting for permission to live my life, and
Mhm.
who took away my permission?
Mhm.
And that is that question is like, was it society? Well,
Mhm.
like maybe, but like it was me who let
You
it
let
that
it
happen.
happen.
And it was like
You
society. I
let it
could blame
happen.
society. I could
We have
blame
more control
use
than we
this.
think.
Yeah, we have. Yes, we do.
Yeah. We
We
just
have a
choose not to
choice.
use it.
We have a choice, and
Yeah.
Or
I
we're too
think a
scared
lot.
to.
Yeah,
Of
and I
course
think
not to. That's certainly the number one.
it's that awareness of realizing we have a choice is where
Yeah.
that's where it begins. It's like,
Yeah.
because we're born into this world with in these bodies with this point of view, looking through our eyes, hearing through our ears, and like it's like, and from a objective standpoint, it's like, oh, this is who I am. I'm this meat bag, and this is my thoughts, and that's real, and this is real, and it's like
Mhm.
it's life as we observe it when we're like, it's not like the day we were born. It's like, hey, you're gonna have all these senses, you're gonna have all these things that people talk about. None of that's true. That's just really just light refracting in your eyes, and it's actually just your observation of what is. But it's like that's experience. Like we can't, you're not born and they give you a book and like this is who you are, and this is who you
No,
are not.
trust me, there was no instruction manual for me.
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
that's what's beautiful is you're writing that, not an instruction manual, but you're right through your experiences. You've taken something that society and collective conversations of that the doctor says what is, and just accept it and roll over and die. And it's like you're like,
No.
I'm gonna rewrite that script.
No.
That's not how I'm gonna live, and that's
Yeah.
not how anybody has to live. And you are a testament to that, but
Thank
you're
you.
also a leader in that, because you know
I
others
hope so.
I know are experiencing something similar or will experience something similar, and you are the exception that leads to the new rule. Whether it's in
Okay.
5 years, 10 years, 20
Yes.
years, but
Mm,
there's another way, there's a better way, and we don't have to succumb to the collective conversations of fear that we build our society and our structures
mhm.
on. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be that way.
Right.
Vicky, thank you so much for
Thank you for
being with
having me.
us. You're just an amazing soul. I'm just inspired by who you are and who you're
Thank you
being
so
and
much.
what you're up to, and how your story is just uplifting us all. We all have something to learn from your story, and it's just I'm
Well, I
really
hope people will reach
honored
out
and
to my
appreciate you.
website and help me, because I'm one person and I sure could use help with, lunge for healthcare for sure. Or, send somebody to one of my classes so that we can pay everything forward. Because everybody that learns something in my course, I asked to take that information and pay it forward, teach somebody else what they've learned
Yeah.
that day, so that less people will die. I think that's just
I think
ultimately
so.
what we're trying to do.
More people can live, and less people can
Yeah,
die.
yeah, and live a happy, open, and honest life. A life that can truly contribute.
Absolutely.
It's not like we're going to end suffering overnight.
Certainly
maybe
not.
we will. I don't know.
No,
Like, it's possible,
you're
but
right.
but
But we can accept the
I
suffering too. Like I suffer every day. I'm in pain all the time. But if I gave into that, what would be my reason behind fighting to live? Because I wouldn't truly be living. If I complained and I actually gave in to the constant pain that I'm in, I wouldn't be living my life. I wouldn't be, it gets to a point where the pain is just going to be there no matter what. It's what you choose, how you choose to deal with it. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
what you're pointing to, Viki, I think the Buddha said this, but pain is inevitable, but suffering is not is
as
an
optional.
option.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
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 And
I mean, like,
that's what you're speaking to.
we're here. Let's make our time useful.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Viki, thank you again for being with
Thanks.
us. Such a pleasure and honor to have you. Love
Sure.
to have you back soon, and
Anytime.
definitely keeping the conversation. We have plenty more to talk about. I think we could go.
Oh,
for
I could
hours
talk
here.
forever. I guess you figured that much out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got lots to talk about, so there's plenty to discuss. More inquiries in this infinite.
Yeah, if anyone
universe that we
hires me to
experience.
speak, they'll get a lot for their money. I'll go on and on. No,
Well,
I know
thank
when
you,
to stop.
Viki.
I'm teasing.
Appreciate you
Viki.
being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you, Viki. And for anyone out there, if you want to learn more or get involved with what she's doing, lunch for a cause, anything like that, her website's at the bottom of the screen, iamtheone.com. Please go check her out.
That's me.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank
See
you,
ya.
Viki.
Bye.
Thank you. And just want to thank you all for tuning in with us. Just thank you for just sharing the space with us and just being who you are in the world. And I want to invite you now, take a moment here to share on the stage. Why we hold this space is to really hold a space for you and your gift. Like you have something like Viki that can move us all, can make us reimagine, rethink the way we're living. Life none of us have to suffer. And you have a piece of that puzzle. What you've experienced in your life, again, is a bridge to another's valley. And this is why we hold this space for you to share the gift that you are. And that's part of what our mission here is, that one day is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And that's part of our one day vision, which is our humanity is rising in a connected world, with each person's unique gifts and genius being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week. As always, I love you all. Be safe this weekend. And as always, one day is today. Peace, everybody.